Alright, welcome back for another replay cast. Just a quick heads up, the color schemes that I was going with for myself and my opponents in these matchups is going to have to change going forward. There's a bug with the new patch where you cannot change custom colors for more than one player at a time. It has some weird issue where if you try to, in fact I could probably just show you right now, if you try to change someone's color, like let's say I try to make myself just straight blue. If you try to change the other player, any value of theirs, it automatically resets the player color to the default. And the same thing happens if you try to do anything with any of the other colors. So I put in a little ticket for the Sega support team, but anyways, let's get into this. So playing as a Skaven again, this time we're matched up against the Vampire Counts on Grove of Slaughter. And I've got Ikit Claw. I've got Plague Monks, 3 squads of them, 2 squads of Eshin Triads, 4 squads of Warp Fire Throwers, 3 squads of Clan Rats, along with the Clan Vulcan Tail Slashers. So these are Clan Rats with shields. Brought them because they've got fire damage. Same thing with the Warp Fire Throwers. And actually the same thing with Ikit Claw. And if you're wondering why I wanted fire damage, it's because fire damage is extra effective against a lot of the undead units, which is most of what the vampire counts are going to have. So any of their units that have, I think as long as they have the, what do you call it? I think if they have the regeneration buff, then they take extra fire damage. It might be if they're undead also, but there's some kind of mechanic like that that goes on. I've probably mentioned this before. So my opponent, again, is a vampire counts, has got Mannfred von Carstein on a, I believe that's a Vargeist. Not a Vargeist, I forget the name, but it's like an undead dragon kind of thing. Maybe it's called Terrorgeist. They've got Regiments of Renown Vargeist, the Devils of Schwarzhofen. They've got Standard Vargeist. Lots of zombies, looks like 5 squads of zombies, including the Regiments of Renown, the Tithe. And they have some physical resist, it looks like. They've got Crypt Horrors and Crypt Ghouls. And I believe that's all. So I'm going to fast forward on the approach. You can see he's taking advantage of his flying. As soon as this match started, what I was thinking was, and there's a Spirit Leash coming down from Mannfred von Carstein on Ikit Claw. As soon as this match started, I was thinking, I did not bring a solid army to deal with this area. I feel like a lot of my damage output is reliant on my Warp Fire Throwers, and you don't want to be shooting around in an obstructed area like this where it's heavily forested. So my game plan was to fight for the side objectives and take advantage of my mobility, because the Skaven are going to have the mobility advantage against the Vampire Counts. See, my opponent's got some Crypt Ghouls, 2 squads of Crypt Ghouls over here on the flank, getting ready to contest point 3. And not too much going on outside of that. More Crypt Ghouls coming on, and Cairn Wraiths coming on, and reinforcement. I'm kind of just looking to see what's going on the field, and you're about to see something here. So this was a huge issue on my part. So that was a Winds of Death cast, and he just did a lot of damage. So it was Clan Rats, Plague Monks, Eshin Triads, Clan Rats. So luckily for me, 4 of the units that I got hit were Clan Rats. But either way, having your units run clump like that can be a big problem, and not a good habit to have, that I paid the price for it. You see he got like 1200 value just from one cast, and you know that spell probably cost him 200 gold to bring, so already getting his money's worth. Now I've got a problem over here because my opponent has Cairn Wraiths, and these guys are ethereal, depending on how you pronounce it. So they've got 55% physical resist. Now to counterbalance that, they have very low health as far as unit health goes, especially for how much they cost. But all of my magic damage dealing units are over on the left side on point 3, which I've now captured. See, my opponent's got all his troops sitting on point 2. And I don't have a super effective way to deal with his air force because I've got Warp Fire Throwers, which are relatively low range units. Let's see what they've got 80 range. And so that's going to be something that I'm figuring out how I want to deal with that. So this is why I bring on the Plague Claw Catapults. They've got the magic damage for their ammunition. And so I'm going to start shooting at them, and now I got to protect these guys. So I brought on the Ikit's Triad, it's the Eshin Triad Regiments of Renown. So you see they've got anti-large, they've got armor piercing, very good leadership for a Skaven unit. And at this point I'm kind of trying to figure out what do I want to do here. I never play the wide points on this map. I always go for points 2 and 3 or points 2 and 1. So firing downtown into the Cairn race, you see they're about to take some damage there. Pretty good amount for the kind of impact that I got there. But they've got 2 squads of Vargeist and their Lord jumping on top of these guys. I probably should have had the Eshin's Triad sitting on top of the crew. Hell Pit Abomination coming in as well. Big anti-large, expensive troop there. Very good against single entities or low model count units. And you can see as soon as that Hell Pit Abomination came on, they turned the other way because he's going to be a very strong deterrent for them. So now I got Warp Fire Throwers, Plague Monks on the approach. They've got a Terrorgeist floating up here in the sky. More Plague Monks on the side, Eshin Triads here in case the Vargeists come in to support. And you can see I'm basically shifting up all my infantry outside of a couple troops that are going to hold this left side to start to apply some pressure on the middle. Now he's got zombies mostly, and Plague Monks are going to do well against them because they're not armor piercing, so they're not losing any of that armor piercing value against the unit that has 0 armor like zombies. He does have Vargeist jumping in to deal with them, so ideally I need to get some kind of anti-large answer in here, but at least I have the Warp Fire Throwers that are out here to shoot in, provide some support. I actually don't know how friendly fire works with Warp Fire Throwers and some of the Skaven units. I feel like thematically they're more likely to just like blast away at their own allies, even if it is going to end up hurting a lot of them just for the sake of killing some enemies. I'm not sure if there are different rules for those type of units, but you can see I casted the, what is that spell? The Scorch spell across his line of zombies. If I hold down the spacebar, you can get a better sense of how compact the units are. He's got Hex Wraiths coming over here. Same kind of problem that I was dealing with on the right side. So you can see my Plague Claw Catapult. I should make a habit of clicking on the mini-map since I've got the slowed scroll speed. His Cairn Wraiths took a pretty good amount of damage from the initial approach as I was shooting at them with the Plague Claw Catapults. But although they are infantry, my Death Runners are not able to deal with these guys just because there's no magic damage output from my Death Runners. And that's really what you need to deal with these ethereal units. Same problem over here, Hex Wraiths charging in. You can see they've basically taken no damage. Now they're charging into Warp Fire Throwers, so the Warp Fire Throwers aren't going to be able to do much to them unless they shoot at them on the approach, while they were focusing instead on the interior of this point, on point 2. So the Hex Wraiths kind of got to charge in without any kind of punishment or penalty from my firepower. So ideally, when I have these Warp Fire Throwers set up over here, I should have some kind of screening unit, like an anti-large unit like the Eshin Triads, or some Clan Rats with spears or something like that over there. Unfortunately, that wasn't the case. So my front line is mostly cracked. You can see I'm going to bring on, actually I don't have them on here yet, so Death Runners coming in, more Plague Monks coming in, Ikit's Triad coming in as well. Hell Pit Abomination over here trying to deal with the Vargeist and with their Lord. Ikit Claw is pretty damaged. I forgot that he actually had a ranged attack that he's got like his own Warp Fire Thrower that I started using at this point in the match. Couple abilities on him, I'm not going to get into that right now. I'm repositioning my Plague Claw Catapults so that I can shoot into this big blob. You can see there's still a good amount of zombies. I actually cleared out a pretty good amount of the zombies, so a lot of this is just large units. So it's Mannfred on the Terrorgeist, the Hex Wraiths. The Hex Wraiths is what I was really trying to shoot at with the Plague Claw Catapults, because this is my main magic dealing damage right now. Even though it's more of an anti-infantry piece, I needed magic damage against these guys regardless. And they clump up decently well, so that was something I was looking to do. Unfortunately, my Hell Pit Abomination is kind of bogged down in a bunch of zombies. My, what do you call them? My Death Runners are fighting a Terrorgeist. Same thing with my Clan Rats over here. So Terrorgeists are going to do really well on that. They both got pretty decent armor. Looks like they probably have like 80, 70, 80 without it getting taken down from debuffs. So Plague Monks and Clan Rats are not going to be able to chew through that. Brought on a squad of Warp Fire Throwers to shoot off the Hex Race as they charge into my Plague Claw Catapult, but they did their job and they chased off the catapult. My Lord Ikit Claw is pretty beat up. He's just about dead. And he is, what is his status? So he is broken. I forget if broken or shattered means that they're guaranteed to run off the field. I feel like there's a way you can get their leadership back depending on what their status is currently. But that's something I should probably figure out so I know when someone is reliably running off the field versus not. You can see I've got some unsummoning to do here with the Warp Lightning Cannons coming on. I'd have another answer for the Hex Wraiths, but you can see just from the amount of red over here, my opponent has definitely got domination on point 2. I did have decent capture weight on it, and I was pulling it back in my favor, but I wasn't able to fully grab it. He's got Crypt Ghouls over here that were able to push off my Warp Fire Throwers and some of my Clan Rats. I think, in fact, it might have been some Eshin Triads that were over here, and he's taking point 3, so now he's got a triple cap. Warp Fire Throwers are getting some really effective shooting into this area. These guys are just going to be melting zombies and most of the undead infantry. He doesn't have Skeleton Spearmen here, but you know, between the Plague Claw Catapults and whatever firing in, clearing out some of their troops, these Eshin Triads kind of caught up the Hex Rates and guaranteed me a couple more shots in the back as they were deteriorating. And now I've got point 2. So although he has more troops over here, I had the capture weight from these 2 squads of infantry. Actually, maybe one of them just got routed off. But the Hell Pit Abomination, these guys were able to get the capture weight. Now again, they've got Vargheists and Terrorgeists on here, and their Lord. And I don't think any of these units, other than these zombies, add capture weight. And zombies are, what do you call them, meat shield troops. And I feel like there's another name. It might just be meat shield troops, but maybe it's expendable. But there's a troop type that has a lower capture weight, even though they're infantry size or infantry type models. So it might be meat shield and expendable type troops. Death Runners and Triads coming over here, getting on top of point 3, looking to get some capture weight. The Death Runners are going to deal well against the Crypt Ghouls. Although their armor piercing value doesn't pay off fully, they still get the bonus versus infantry, and they've got good combat stats. I believe I bring in another squad here. Let's see. Yep. So another squad of Death Runners coming over here to help me contest for point 3, and same problem. So more Hex Rates coming in. So now you can see I've got my Plague Claw Catapult shooting in. Probably taking some friendly fire there. Fellbats from my opponent coming in to shut down my shooting. And same thing as usual. This is just a habit I need to break. Making sure that I'm protecting my artillery pieces, even if it was just some kind of cheap troop. Unfortunately for me, the Eshin Triads are anti-large, and these Fellbats are actually small unit models. They're decent size, but they count as infantry size models or small entities. His Vargheists are still pretty healthy, and at that point I conceded because he basically had a triple cap. He was able to recapture the middle. I wasn't doing a good job of fighting his squad off over here, although I was getting the shooting from the Warp Lightning Cannon into his Hex Rates. He had enough answers for the other squad of Death Runners that I had coming in there that he was probably going to push them off, and the Hex Rates probably would have run free. Even if they took a couple more shots, he was going to get on top of these guys with the Vargheists in a second anyways. He still had control over point 1. And I realized that I was kind of outmatched there. So, lesson learned for me, when you're facing the vampire counts, you have to have some kind of magical damage mobility. Whether it's Karen Wraiths or Hex Wraiths, gotta be able to deal with that. And there might be some other ethereal units that they can bring on their roster, but lesson learned there. Well played to my opponent. Let's take a quick look at the damage values. So, let's see. Ikit Claw got an okay amount. He's somewhat expensive, so he didn't pay off, but he got an okay amount for how I performed overall. The Eshin Triads did alright. I think they cost, I almost want to say they cost 700. Put a little bit of experience on them. Plague Monks didn't do great. The Plague Monks I actually thought were going to do better than that, but they all performed pretty poorly. Warp Fire Throwers, none of them did great. I think ideally I bring maybe 2 squads of them. Maybe 2 or 3 squads of them. Or if I'm going to bring this many, put some of them in the reinforcement army so that I can guarantee some value from them by having more supporting troops to protect them, whether it's screening airplay, screening cavalry, or things of that nature. Clan Rats didn't do great. Hell Pit Abomination probably earned his keep. I think this guy cost 1,700. He was around half health and still had work to do. The Viskin is Death Squad, so this regiment's renowned Death Runners. These guys were really competing on point too, so they earned their money's worth. Warp Lightning Cannon didn't do great. Plague Claw Catapult did alright. Iksh's Triads did alright. They were fighting off the Lord, Mannfred, and some of those Var guys, so I think that's where they got some of their value. Death Runners only got one squad on, they did alright. And Plague Monks, again, not too much value on them given how much they cost. I want to say Plague Monks were around like 550, something like that, maybe more. For my opponent, Mannfred was a freaking stud. He got almost 4,000 value and he still had around half health. Vargeists, decent value for how much they cost, I believe. I haven't played as a Vampire Council yet, but I'm pretty sure these guys are not super expensive. Crypt Horrors, alright. Crypt Ghouls, alright. Zombies, what you'd expect. Hex Race did pretty good. Karen Race did alright. So nothing too crazy with the damage differential, but most of where I got crushed was his Vargeist, his Terrorgeist, and his play with Mannfred. So I got to figure out how to deal with large entities better. I have a tendency to focus too much on dealing with infantry and not enough on large models, and sometimes not addressing unexpected troops like ethereal units and things like that. So it's always good to have a utility piece like a unit with magic or fire damage or whatever. And although I had the Plague Claw Catapult and the Warp Lightning Cannon and some of the Warp Fire Throwers, I didn't have the means to protect them. So something I'll have to play around more with, especially because Skaven has a lot of firepower. So thanks for watching. Well played to my opponent, and I'll see you on the next one.